Oh hi! So with it gradually getting later into the year, I seem to be in the mood for something that I like to call MHA, or Mild Horror Anthology. What I mean by this are the shows like the ever eerie and peculiar one that I so vividly remember growing up, and yet was never really scared, but was more experiencing excited fear. Does that make sense? Well, for me, that was Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Twilight Zone, and Black Mirror, among others similar in a nutshell. Now, with it being so close to Halloween, I felt that this was the perfect time to do this. You'll see why. It's heavy.
There's that word again, heavy.
And I wasn't expecting to find what I found. As a side note, you may or may not know that
Back to the Future
is my favourite trilogy. But if you've been here for a while, then you'll probably know that from videos way back in the past. What is that? So I started watching a new series years ago, but I never really continued it. That was the Netflix series Creeped Out, and if you like things like Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, you will love this. Because I liken the show to a more modern interpretation. Each episode is a tale spun from different moral dilemmas, each showing a character with some form of damaged moral, such as theft, bullying, anger issues, whether to be good or bad, or even the most modern issue approached, which is the overuse of technology, which if you are a fan of Black Mirror and other shows similar to that, then you'll know of the overuse of technology being used. The episodes are woven to show what could happen if the moral damages take hold and the wrongs aren't put right. Anyway, I reached out to Rob Butler, who is the creator of Creeped Out. Believe it or not, he replied, "Hi, thanks for watching. Great to hear you enjoyed the show." I will also mention something later on as well about something that Rob told me about the series and Christopher Lloyd himself. Bear in mind, I went into this show not expecting any references at all. And after the first 3 episodes being brilliantly executed and very well twisted, I was then settled into this world reminiscent of The Twilight Zone. But then I reached episode 4, called Help, and around 5 minutes 45 into it, I hear this.
Let me guess. Hill Valley Tech Convention, right?
Yep, you heard it right. Hill Valley Tech Convention. To make it odder still as well, it wasn't just a reference to
Back to the Future,
the films. It was a reference to something within the universe of Back to the Future, Hill Valley, to which Marty comes from, and supposedly this plane of existence was in the same realm as Back to the Future itself. I hit play on the next episode 1 more minute, and at first it didn't seem to be that there was any reference to Back to the Future, or at least it must be some hidden one. However, by that point I hadn't reached out to Rob, and when I did speak to him, he told me there's the Chris Lloyd school in 1 more minute. How did I not see that? Something else that Rob told me as well about that one specific reference is that apparently once when they were filming in Canada, he met Christopher Lloyd in a bar and told him about that specific reference, telling him that he was the inspiration for it, which is utterly amazing if you think about it. Anyway, in the next installment I watched Splinter Claws, which was the episode that was given to me next, despite that not being apparently the correct order. Now, aside from the Santa character in this giving me very Doctor Who-ish vibes, you know, the runaway bride Santa, the whole feel of Creeped Out kind of reminds me of Tennant's era.
Yep. But I do it brilliantly.
But in Splinter Claws, right at the beginning at around 3 minutes 27 seconds, Mikey says to his mum,
"You almost done?"
to which Mikey's mum responds,
"Hello, McFly."
which as a reference is an amazing response. Now, as far as I can tell, the rest of Series 2 doesn't really make any reference to Back to the Future. The Many Place episode is very well written, and it very much reminds me as well of the Doctor Who episodes where they're stuck in a hotel and there's a creature. It's the same kind of concept. Okay, time for a trip back in the DeLorean to Series 1. So the first few episodes of Series 1 didn't really have any reference to the Zemeckis film, but I did notice what I think could be a reference in episode 4's title, Marty, although Marty is spelt with an I instead of a Y. Now, saying that one episode didn't have any reference to Back to the Future, they very, very much made up for that in the next episode, A Boy Called Red. Now you may be thinking why? Why has that got a big reference to it? Is it because of the name? Marty wears red with his red life preserver vest thing? No. That as well, but no. A Boy Called Red is one of the most heartwarming tales of this Creeped Out series. It is absolutely filled with references to the 80s film, and it kind of moreover feels like a modern retelling. The first audible reference we get to this is pretty early on, to be fair. When Vince goes down to the basement, you hear this musical motif play, and it is genuinely a confirmed reference and homage to the films by the composer. In the next scene, we see Vincent meeting his dad, AJ, in good old 1985, and how do we find out that it's 1985? By looking at a magazine, kind of like Marty does when he looks at a newspaper when he goes back in time. Now back in modern day, Vincent is coming to terms with what he saw, and just like Marty meeting his younger dad, there's this beautiful scene with Vincent sitting at the kitchen table with his dad whilst they're having breakfast, and Vincent does the look around his dad. His dad even then says "what?" to Vincent in the same kind of style.
Wow. What?
In the very next scene, Vincent goes back down to the basement and we hear yet another motif. Now later on, when Vincent and his younger dad go to his younger dad's bedroom in 1985, we see a poster on the far wall of his room of the DeLorean, and the name is then revealed in the next shot when he sits down. Last scene from the episode, we get Vincent and AJ talking at the door, and Vincent and his dad have this interaction.
Smell you later.
Yeah. Watch later.
Which, if you'll realise, is very similar to what happens in Back to the Future.
See y'all later. Much later.
Now you think that would be it for all of the references, that you think that would be everything that they've done throughout the entire two series, but no. In the very next episode, The Call, we hear the mum mention a very specific and familiar school dance.
Oh, we could have an enchantment under the sea dance.
Yup, the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. And yet that's not everything. There's even more, and this is a huge one. This episode that I'm speaking of is the next one, called Bravery Badge. This one has a very Are You Afraid of the Dark feel to it. They're even sat round a campfire telling creepy stories. But there is one particular scene which took me by surprise at first, and they really nailed the reference. Now I didn't really speak to Rob about this specific reference, other than the fact that in his message to me he did say that there's a play on words at the end of Bravery Badge. That was all he told me. He even says in an interview that they directly lifted the line, saying we didn't say Libyans, but we called them Lidlands. And I don't want to spoil any more of what the reference actually is. I'm just going to play the clip for you.
She found them. I don't know how, but she found them. Who? Who do you think? The Lidlands.
Yeah, it's a mighty big reference, and if for any reason you don't know Back to the Future or you don't know that specific scene, here is that clip.
They found me. I don't know how, but they found me.
Run for it, Marty! Who? Who do you think? The Libyans!
It's almost identical, well, it pretty much is identical other than the word Libyans being changed to Lidlands. Rob then went on to say in an interview that I read that they were little things to make us laugh more than anything. I was genuinely geeking at the screen and cheering like Doc Brown after the DeLorean travels. I know, poor Einstein, the world's first time-travelling guinea pig. I mean, Doc. So in conclusion, after watching the entire series and seeing all of the Easter eggs of Back to the Future, which I've said the name for far too many times throughout this entire video, but I'm not sponsored by either Creeped Out or Back to the Future, I wish I was. I genuinely love every second of it, of both Back to the Future and Creeped Out. I love the series. Every mention is incredible. Rob Butler and Bede Blake are absolute geniuses for putting this together, along with the other crew members on the series, putting all of the heart and soul into making everything amazing on the show. How can I forget a big thank you to you guys for watching. If you like this video, then please consider clicking the like button and subscribing to the channel for more videos like this. Maybe the curious really does mess with things. A massive thank you to Rob Butler.